It's great to see so many friendly faces here, but I do have to start by recognizing somebody that couldn't come with me from Brussels, and without whom I wouldn't be here today. And through the magic of Zoom, my wife Jill is joining us. Uh, and when I say that I wouldn't be here today without Jill, obviously she supported me over the last couple of years, but more importantly, she resisted the urge to kill me every time I would come home and say, "Hey, look, I have to go to New Orleans tomorrow for a higher ed conference. You got the kids, right?" And it's a shame that she couldn't be here, but we're very happy now in Brussels working at US NATO. I was scribbling down notes, Congresswoman, for my talking points when we're combating President Putin. Thank you very much, Goalie, for this award and endowing it. It means a lot. It's great. Glenn and Barry, thank you for your kind words. And you'll be hearing from the Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of Consular Affairs in a moment. Right now, I want to talk a little bit about the 50 for 50 campaign that we're celebrating today. And there are three themes that I want to hit on. The first is symmetry. The second is irony. And the third is inclusivity. And Goalie did such a lovely job hitting on the symmetry theme, where she showed up as a student visa holder on this very special, this magical campus, this differentiator of the United States from the rest of the world. She was attracted to the United States to come here and study and pursue the American dream. And boy, oh boy, did you live up to that. And, congratulations for all the great work that you've done in the private and the public sector. It's very, very inspiring. On that same exact campus, I was impacted by my foreign classmates that planted the seeds for what ultimately became the role of industry liaison and the 50 for 50 campaign. And when I realized that, I knew who you were, being an ECA veteran, but when I looked into your bio and saw that you went there. Now, they taught us at Stanford not to name drop, but since Goalie brought it up, I thought it was okay. The fact that we both shared Stanford and that magical experience is almost poetic. And I just thought that the beautiful symmetry of you starting that and then today celebrating the award was really cool and worth mentioning. Moving on from that, talking about irony, here I was on the campus at Stanford, which is a magnet for some of the smartest minds on the planet. And it's not like visa applications are rocket science or anything like that, but it's an incredibly emotional process, right? Your education is tied to a visa, maybe your career, maybe you're launching a business or something like that, family unification, maybe you have a vacation that you're planning to take in the United States. All of these things are wrapped up that make the visa adjudication process emotionally charged, even for the smartest people on earth. And it's through that I realized that the human touch was what these people needed. Right? This is an award ostensibly recognizing innovation, but diplomacy is a human art form, and the people-to-people engagement that just helping guide my classmates through. There are about 100 of them over the course of 2 years that came to me when they found out that there was an American diplomat on campus. And ultimately, it also included like the sports coaches, the international students. And don't worry, I wasn't charging for it. You talk about like, hey, you love what you do if you start doing it for free. Well, I was doing it for free in case consular integrity is watching. I wasn't running a hustle on the side. But I realized that there was room here for innovation. And that's the irony. Rather than launching this campaign in Silicon Valley, I found an opportunity to innovate in one of the most unlikely places here in Washington at the Department of State, where we're fortunate to have this multi-billion-dollar enterprise. And in a moment, you're going to hear from our world-class CEO, Assistant Secretary Bitter, and you're going to see the kind of leadership we have. And it all started with, I had heard that there was this Deputy Assistant Secretary for Visa Services that was saying these crazy things about how we're going to do FOIL-less visas and we're going to start renewing visas domestically. And I knew right away, that's who I want to work for. So I sent a cold email to Julie Stuft, who we're fortunate enough to have here. And she got right back to me and said, "You're hired. Let's do this." And she opened the door to this incredible opportunity. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was telling Assistant Secretary Bitter about this, and I said, the moment that Julie said, "Let's do this," I said, my goal is to tell the world how brilliant Julie Stuft is. And Assistant Secretary Bitter said, "Oh yeah, you're really breaking new ground there. Julie Stuff is smart. Nobody thought of that before." But don't take my word for it. Don't take the Assistant Secretary's word for it. But the University of Southern California thinks you're pretty smart too, Assistant Secretary or Deputy Assistant Secretary Stuff. So thank you so much for that. Let's give a round of applause to her. Uh, And when you have world-class leadership, like our Assistant Secretary and DAS Stuff, you attract world-class talent. And the unsung heroes, in my opinion, of the pandemic are the men and women of consular affairs. They're the ones that were stuck around the world that had to pierce the bubble and go to the consular sections and issue visas that were literally in the national interest. We didn't know what was going on, but the tremendous bravery and courage that they showed by showing up every day to facilitate visas, to take care of American citizen services, to do passports is something that is wholly underappreciated. And certainly as the world stopped and we weren't able to issue visas at scale like we normally do, we were coming under, in my opinion, unfair criticism. Now, it's always fair to have pressure from the private sector, but some of the nasty things that were being said about the Bureau of Consular Affairs and these courageous, and I wouldn't say that word liberally, these courageous men and women that were willing to put their health on the line to advance our economic priorities, to advance our national interest, it was something that I thought was unfair and I wanted to fix. And then when I actually got to the Bureau, I recognized that not only were they brave, but they were incredibly innovative and hardworking. And you guys can't take the award back, right? All right. Once I realized this, I was like, oh, the next 2 years are going to be so easy. Because all I needed to do at that point was take these talented men and women, get them out and into the public. And there was a clear command signal on the best way to do that. And this takes me to the last point, inclusivity. The Secretary of State in his first policy speech wasn't about Russia. It wasn't about strategic competition. It wasn't about our alliances. It was about promoting a foreign policy for all Americans, turning our foreign policy inside out and looking domestically. This was something that was underscored by my good friend, then Undersecretary Liz Allen, who oversaw public affairs. And one of her top priorities was domestic outreach. So the game plan was all there. I had this incredibly talented group of individuals, and I said that I was able to touch the lives of 100 of my classmates. Well, if I could find 60 or 100 of my colleagues in the Bureau of Consular Affairs who could get out there and they could all talk to 100 people, that's like, 100,000 people. Don't check my math there. And if we could effectively turn the people that they were talking to into effective spokespeople for the Bureau of Consular Affairs, we could shift the narrative and show how we were partners for industry, that we were the good guys, and that our hard work was serving the American people. The other thing is that I want to stress is that the big businesses in America, I will always champion, and I think that they're very important in terms of creating jobs and opportunities for Americans. But those are the easy organizations to reach out to, the flagship universities and the top businesses from coast to coast. But we made a conscious decision to be aggressive in our outreach. We were going to go find you. Even though we had our system set up and in place, we were going to look for opportunities to identify key people and key influencers representing smaller businesses around the world, or around the United States. And we did that by working with our colleagues from the Commerce Department. We did that by working with the interagency to identify people that wouldn't necessarily engage with the State Department. And I know that's not necessarily a key performance indicator, but boy, oh boy, I also don't know how to measure this, but the number of people that told us this is the first time that we'd been visited by the Department of State, whether that was religious groups that we engage with, small businesses, agriculture communities, community colleges, it means something. And we were showing that we were there to help them out. And I take tremendous pride in that. To wrap things up, I'm also going to hit the symmetry. Again, I started with symmetry. I'm going to end in symmetry. The last engagement that I had my involvement with actually came to fruition last week when the Bureau of Consular Affairs visited New York and was able to ring the closing bell at NASDAQ. And I just thought it was so beautiful that this idea started on the West Coast in California. It ended on the East Coast in New York, in the shadow of the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, the great examples, that the world showcases for the power of immigration and the American dream. And I can't think of a better way to hand things off to my successor, Kate. And then actually, she was helped by a colleague named Morgan. Talk about symmetry, the Morgan legacy moves on. And as a creator, to see the continuity after I left means the world to me. Keep up the great work to my colleagues in the Bureau of Consular Affairs. Y'all are amazing. The joy, if you haven't seen the pictures, the joy and the pride that the team showed when we were being showcased literally in Times Square on a billboard. It doesn't get any bigger than that. And I'm rooting for you, and fight on.